I don't think that mom guilt ever goes away. But I guess I have learned that, even if that feeling comes, we have a choice, right? There will be many thoughts that come. Mom guilt is just one thing, right? As mothers, sometimes we could also feel anxious, fearful. I think it's more about letting the emotions come, recognize it, that there's a place for it. But whether we let it just suck our energy and our time, turn that energy into something that's more positive.
Hello and welcome to Make It Work, the bi-weekly podcast where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their career paths whilst putting family first.
Welcome back to Make It Work. I'm your host, Sarah Wong. Today we talk about a topic that often worries me as a parent, and I know that it does for many of you too. I'm talking about digital wellness, screen time, social media, and everything in between. So today is a very unique interview because my guest, Carol Loy, is a much sought-after expert in this area that has profound impact on our lives as modern working parents. From learning how we and our kids can develop healthy relationships with our devices, to figuring out how AI will affect our children, Carol has the answers. She is a Singaporean mom of 2 young adult daughters and has been teaching on digital wellness for the past decade. Blending her personal story with the tools and advice that she regularly gives to families and organizations, you will hear fantastic, actionable steps on how we can better parent in this digital age. Come listen. Hi, Carol. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
So, without further ado, can you tell us your story in 2 minutes or less?
Yeah, so was born in Hong Kong. I came here when I was 9. And then I got married in my 20s, met my husband in uni, and I spent my first 20 years of working life in the public service. That's when I met when we were studying construction. But now I'm not in that field while he still is. So in the 20 years in public service, I went to serve in different ministries, starting from construction-related work, moving on to the Economic Development Board to develop people, and then moving to the Ministry of Education. And my last stint in the public service was with the Infocom Media Development Authority, where I had front row seats to see how our nation is moving towards digitalization and how technology is impacting relationships, including families. At the same time, my children, and I've got 2 girls, 22 and 19, I see how technology is shifting the way that they interact with their friends, with us in the family, within the family and the extended family, and how technology and the things that they're exposed to impact their way of making sense of the world. I was concerned, and combined with the professional work that I was doing in the public service, I felt that I think a lot more work needs to go into deeper conversation on technology, and rather than just running campaigns, which I used to do. So about 7 years ago, I started to run my own social enterprise where I provide digital wellness education. I talk to educators and parents and young people directly, and children too, on how we can use technology well for us and not allow it to distract us, and what are the strategies behind those conversations that we need to have in the home. And beyond digital wellness, I'm increasingly seeing that it's also associated with mental well-being. And I also then got myself certified as a certified mental toughness coach, so that we can manage that well and to be able to use technology in a way that is healthy for us, mentally, physically, relationally. And then the last pillar that I work on is on leadership and communication. Because when we talk about things relating to digital devices and so on, a lot has got to do with relationship and also the way that we lead first ourselves, our own discipline, our self-control, how we manage our time. So I've been doing that for the past 7 years and counting, and I find that the work, it allows me to spend more time with my family. Many people think that only the first 7 years, is critical in a child's development. But I'm also learning that in the teenage years, that is also another critical season of their development. Their brains go through a lot of remodeling, so to speak, and they are making sense of the world with much more independence. And I find that just being available and present in the home for my 2 daughters as they're growing up as teenagers and now young adults has enabled us to maintain our relationship and enabled me to make sense of the complexities in the world, and also be able to be there for them when they feel down or frustrated by the complexities in their life. It's not easy growing up as a teenager or a young adult these days. Yeah. So that's me.
Amazing. Wow, thanks so much, Carol. Yeah, I just read a stat that the human brain
whilst it's maybe about 90% formed by then, it only fully matures by late 20s. So there's so much that can be done during this time, especially with so much information and so much knowledge. But maybe it's about being able to have the wisdom and someone to walk through with young people in navigating this plethora of info out there. So I have two young kids and I have already anxiety about, putting digital devices in front of them. So very excited to learn from you today.
Yeah, so my job now is to encourage parents, mummies like you, trying to do our best to raise our children in a very media saturated world, right? Whether we like it or not, they are exposed to small device, big device, not just our own devices, but other people's devices. And it can be an anxious season, right? Entering parenthood in this digital age. So my role is just to be this little cheerleader running alongside parents in their parenting journey and to see how we can figure this out together. And now the discussion is no longer even just devices. And even in the past 7 years, I have seen how technology is changing. I used to only talk about devices. Increasingly, I need to talk about gaming because there's a lot of impact, on young people. Some of the young people that I deal with, they prefer the online world, the gaming world, than actually the real world. But even as I'm trying to make sense of all these things with parents, understanding the gaming world, now I have to start to talk about generative AI, and how does this new technology impact the way we parent. So this is something that I'm formulating and I'm about to start a conversation on it with parents so that we can firstly know what is happening and figure out how does it impact us as we raise our children. So technology is always shifting. There's always something new to learn. But as we come into a community, which is what I often encourage parents to get into, like we don't have to run the parenting race on our own. We want to find healthy communities to be part of. And so this is what I do and what I really believe in.
Well, thank you. I wanted to kind of dial it back a little bit and get a bit of color about who you are, Carol Loy. Maybe you can share how a day in your life looks like right now, running all these different events and platforms.
Yeah, day in my life is, starting the day really having me time. I am a person of faith, so I spend my morning, especially when I wake up, I need to spend time praying. Then after that, I would either have meetings or I run sessions, or I would be doing publicity, sharing with people what my sessions were like, what were the key takeaways, so that more people can learn from the lessons, in what I was teaching. Many a times I also do coaching with parents. We would discuss, what are some of their goals that they want to achieve. So for me, a typical day is really quite like, it's not 9 to 5 like I used to have in my 20 years in the public service, where things were a little bit more clear cut. In the past, I just go to work and my children grew up in childcare, student care. And then I would, after leaving them there, then I try to switch channel, go to my work mode. And then I try to focus, And then towards the afternoon, I'll get a little bit stressed already because I know my kid is going to come home. They will be cranky and I'll be tired. So usually like by late afternoon, I get a little bit stressed. But now when I have the opportunity to be more flexible, I think I don't have that segregation so much. That is good and bad. It is just an integration of work and family and also me time. Me time is really important for me to stay fresh in my mind. And because of the areas I work with on families, very often I hear really painful stories from parents, something bad happened to them or they're here, they're frustrated. And many times I can't help them and I would refer them to my friends in other sectors, they're professionals. So I always need the time to process some of these things, no matter how painful and how ugly stuff, there is still hope. So that my me time makes sure that I cling on to hope so that then I can do my best to bring hope to families. Yeah, so that's my typical all rolled up together.
Wow, thanks for sharing. I was going to ask about productivity hacks, but I think you wrote that into your answer as well about how it's important to find breaks in between your day, especially in such a work where you have to almost be like a counselor, I think, to a lot of his parents, counselor, coach, your teacher, to youth, to find places to refuel. And because you are a person of faith, you pray, I'm sure that like really helps a lot. Anything else in terms of productivity hacks to, juggle such a diverse day?
Oh, yeah, the most basic cost-free thing is do housework, right? To me, that's a hack, and making sure that we allocate time for ourselves, me time. Whether is it time for ourselves, where we just do things that don't need so much mental bandwidth. For me time also include like connecting with my faith and with God. There are other technology hacks that I wrote down actually that I realized that I'm quite dependent on them. So one of them is Calendly, which you also use. That's how we book each other's time. It has saved me so much work. So that's a tool. The other very basic tool that many people use is Google Calendar. It runs my life, so to speak, right? And I have like different color code for different things. And we use it in my family also. So my girls, they are 22 and 19, and my husband, they all use Google Calendar. And there's a function that allows us to see one another's calendar. And so that everybody knows what everybody is doing. Transparency is a part of our family culture. We want to be accountable to each other. And so with that transparency, then we don't have to nag. Where are you going to? What time are you coming back? Because it's in the calendar. And so that is a tool that really help us to, or help me, because sometimes, when our children grow older, we kind of like anxious, right? We don't see them. And then we kind of like, so where are you going to? Who are you going with? If
What time are you coming back?
Right, like kind of question, right? But if everything is there, I don't have to probe as much. Yeah, and I can be assured that, they
Right.
and we have this another technology tool that we use when needed is turn on live location. But we are in WhatsApp, so we have a family chat. This is applicable when the kids are older. Yours may be a bit too young, don't have technology yet. But at some point, if they are like independent, that is also our family SOP, right? Our standard operating procedure. If we are out very late and instead of like nagging where you, then they just, no question, I just turn on live location. And then they are tracked, so to speak. And so it's easier for us to know like that they're okay and so on. We have also another hack. When the children are older, we kind of like want to help them to be able to walk away from situations that they are uncomfortable with. Because sometimes teenagers, they kind of feel a lot of peer pressure. Even though I'm not comfortable in this situation, but I don't dare to walk away, my friends might laugh at me, and so we kind of have a SOP, also another SOP, in that, if you're uncomfortable, you don't know how to walk away from the situation, or you need additional help. What you need to do is just X in the family chat. When they type X it's like our own code, right? X, right? No question asked. The SOP is either daddy or mommy will call, okay? And then when your phone ring, you just pick up your phone. You just say, oh, sorry, my mother is calling. And then you walk away from the situation. And so they don't have to lose face, right? Because it's legit, it's mommy call. So they just walk away from the situation. And then I would calmly tell them it's okay, just walk to somewhere where you are safe. So that is our SOP. It was only activated once. And whether actually your child is young or old, there will be situations that we do need to practice. So when they were younger, so let me park this aside first, when the ex, because I think some of the people listening in might have children who are younger. Even when they are younger, right, there will still be certain situations that we want to practice in advance. The idea is having a plan, right? So we role play, for example, because my children grew up in childcare and student care. When they were in childcare centers, preschool years, we would practice with them, right? If somebody come and tell you that, mommy asked me to pick you up, right? Come with me. Your mommy call, right? Mommy say can, you just come, right? Then what must you do? So then I practice with my girls that, I need to ask my teacher, let me call my mommy, and then I make them memorize mommy's numbers. They must memorize mommy's number, not just mommy's numbers, but also daddy's number in case cannot get mommy. So these are things that we practice beforehand. And it started when my girls were in preschool. And those kind of SOP or the planning need to adjust when the children are older. So by the time they were like young adults, the SOP is, type X, right? So in that particular situation, she typed X. Then all my emotions come out, like what happened? She's in a new place, and when the transition happened, as mothers, it's very natural for us to like feel also very anxious. Are they adjusting okay in a new place with new friends? And then when you see that activated, right, X, I feel like all my emotions coming up. So I call her. When I call her, I hear the party music, boom, boom, party music. And then I thought, where is she? Isn't she supposed to be in school? She's supposed to be having orientation in school. What's happening? But then I have to follow SOP. The SOP is I will calmly talk to her. So thankfully, there's a SOP. I'm not so frantic, right? So it's okay, right? You're safe. Walk away. Remember, we said we walk away. So just walk away. It's okay. Hold on to the phone. Just walk away. And then I hear the music getting softer and softer. Only then she explained to me, suddenly at the end of the orientation, the hall went dim. Everybody was in party mode. And she was like not comfortable because she was just tired. And then that's how we then talk her through like just come home safely. But I think having those plans in place help both the parent, both me and my daughter, know what to do when something happens. And so I learned from that actually having conversations and being prepared for various situations help in setting expectation. And this idea or this principle can happen not just in terms of safety, physical safety. It can happen with if something pops up when I'm watching a video, if an inappropriate picture or a video pop up when I'm watching a video or playing a game where I need to watch an ad before I go up to the next level in the game, or in my messaging group, a friend showed me something, what should we do? Those kind of like set or SOP, the standing operating procedure, if we discuss it, then the children will be empowered to know that, hey, if somebody show me something that's inappropriate, I can do something about it, right? I don't have to just follow whatever say, mommy has already spoken to me on what I need to do. Then we can practice it. Like we give them skills to be able to deal with stuff even before things happen.
I think it sounds like it's a really important aspect of your training, and even something that you want to drill into your participants and even our listeners, right? Where it's important to have these SOPs or anticipation of certain kind of events that your kids might find themselves in.
There will be different things that we need to prepare them for. So in the past, it would be like, how do you walk away from situation? Now my children are young adults, right? Now our conversation is relating to like dating, and then what is their life goals and things like that. So it's an ongoing conversation, and that's what makes parenthood so interesting. That we grow with our children, right? I never knew that I'm so creative until I become a mother. You need to deal with situations, right? There's so many different complex stuff that are happening. So beyond just focusing on schoolwork and the academic development of our children, there are actually a suite of so many other areas of their development that we also need to spend time to learn and to engage our children in conversations with.
Okay, Carol, as you were talking, I realized that as much as you are an expert in this whole digital wellness space and brain defense, there's something that I think you will be able to speak into, which is being a mom at work. You were in public service for 20 years, and you talked about your kids being in childcare, student care for a long time. I'm sure this concept of mom guilt is something that you were familiar with. Can you talk a little bit about how you went through that, and what are some things you want to tell us people like me who feel mom guilt very often?
Yeah, for me, I don't think that mom guilt ever goes away. Actually, just last weekend, I felt guilty because I was running a mother-daughter retreat with one of my daughters, and it was the birthday of my other daughter. And I was so guilty because I am serving other people's daughters, and I'm not serving my own. I could only like call her, and play with her. And so I think mom guilt definitely, it just evolve. It will come. It's like a feeling that comes. But when that feeling comes, we have a choice. We can process it and recognize that feeling is there, that feeling is real. But whether we keep mouthing over it and let it just suck our energy and our time, that's one way. But the other way is I recognize it. Okay, so what can I do about it? Right? And turn that energy into something that's more positive. So for me, I feel very guilty, but instead of saying I'm so guilty, that's right, I'm such a bad mom. This is like such poor planning. Why I never think about it? I could have just dwelt in that train of thought. Or I could have like, okay, what can I do about it? Okay, I'm going to call her. I'm going to pray with her. I'll chat with her. I'll check in with her. Even now, she's running a camp. The worst thing, and I was so guilty not only because I was not able to be with her on her birthday. She was actually planning for a very large camp. She was running a camp for 100 over people together with her team, and she was like the camp commandant. And then running up, I was like trying to cheer her up, like what does she need? I opened up my house for their meetings and preparing props. And then now, and it was very important to her. And for me, being around my children at a time where something very important happens, from their perspective, it is a way of me providing mommy support. I may not need to physically do stuff for them, but just being available, like is there something that you need? Do you want to drink something? Can I buy you food? Those are like the stuff that are important to me. When I couldn't do that, I felt guilty, right? This is something that I usually do. I didn't get to do it. So I realized that I think let the emotions pass. We recognize that this is the guilt thing, but it shouldn't trick us or immobilize us. For me, I just take it as, okay, maybe next time I need to be more mindful. I should have thought about it. And now on hindsight, I think I did think about it, and I asked her for permission. I know it's your birthday. Is it okay that we still go ahead to plan the retreat? And she said, okay. She said, okay, then I should have expected that, wow, when it really hits, I might still feel something. Yeah, so that was like my own experience. Like even as a mommy for 22 years, I still experience mom guilt. But I think there are things that, so I was guilty for many years actually when I was working full-time as a public officer. Guilty because at some stage my children outgrew the student care system. I mean, they didn't like going to student care anymore and they just wanted to go home. And then
The
I don't
student care is the after school care after they're in primary school, and then
yeah, so after school they will just go over to the space within the school compound, and there are people who look after them. They can take their shower, do their homework. So by the time they come home, I don't bother with homework with them anymore. We just spend time talking, doing stuff together, playing and chill. Really, home is a place to chill. For us, I give up doing homework with them when they were in primary 3 because I cannot do model maths. So home is a place to chill for us. Yeah. I was guilty for a long time because after they outgrow the student care, I didn't want them to come home to an empty home. So they would come to my office. They would come to my office, either sit next to me. My bosses were very nice, but not every day also. I know that it's not fair. If everybody does this, it might not, it might not be nice. So sometimes I would send them to the cafeteria in my office. And then, then they will be so tired and they'll just lie down at the sofa in the cafeteria. And then people walk past like, who is this child? Of course, I have like friends who work in the cafeteria to look after them for me. But I always feel very guilty. Like this shouldn't be the life my girls grow up in, So I was guilty. But then things changed 7 years ago when I felt like I think I need to do more professionally to like go deeper in conversation. So I kind of left. When I left to start my own business, then I have more flexibility to be able to just be home with them. That helped me to I don't feel guilty so much, even though I don't earn financially. It's like less than half of what I used to earn. But I think seeing how our relationship continued to be strong during the supposedly more turbulent teenage years, it was not so bad for us. And I think it's worth it. So turning the guilt into something something that's more productive and useful, I think helps me. So I don't feel as much. It's not that I don't have it anymore. It's not like, I don't think I'm not sure whether it will ever go away. Maybe next time if my children ever get married, and maybe I might still feel guilty, like, how come I never, I don't know, but like, should I have said something, when they were, I don't know. But I guess I have learned that, even if that feeling comes, we have a choice, right? There will be many thoughts that come. I mean, mom guilt is just one thing, right? As mothers, sometimes we could also feel like anxious, right? Fearful, who are they with? And those emotions come. I think it's more about letting the emotions come, recognize it, that there's a place for it, but whether it sticks, and then we keep dwelling on things that actually don't really help at all. That is something that I would always remind myself, right? If worry is not going to help me to do anything, then why should I worry, right? I should be spending my limited bandwidth to do something practical that is helpful. Helpful either to me or to my child or in my family. Yeah.
wow, yeah, this is actually really, I would say, encouraging to me in a sense that realizing it's something that will never go away. It just takes on different forms at different stages of the kid's life. And I think it's heartening to realize that once a mom, always a mom. It's not like a different phase, maybe different intensity and different things that you do to respond to that. But yeah, that's helpful. Thanks for sharing that. I'm sure that's also something that you hear about or have to speak with sometimes to your parents.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think our emotions are powerful, but I think we should use our emotions for good, for things that are helpful. It's not that we ignore them. It's not that we lower their value. I think our emotion can be turned towards something that's productive and helpful for everybody, and not just allow our emotions to distract us from what we need to do.
So good. I was just listening to another podcast where this dad was saying that he regularly checks in with his family, his kids. They're like primary school age, asking what he can do better. And recently they say, oh, you can make better pancakes. So that's what he's focused on. And I think that's a way of, channeling that kind of guilt, so-called, into something productive that your kids actually want. So yeah, I think that's a really practical example.
Yeah, I think that's so important to get regular feedback. We do that at work. Every half yearly, we do a work appraisal. And so actually in the family, we should also be getting feedback. And so one of the things that we did, right, in the mother-daughter retreat over the weekend was that we have like a little quadrant. I gave the mothers a little quadrant. The top left corner is what I hope you can do more of. So essentially, it's more of, less of, stop doing and start doing. This is like a normal
Right.
organization rule, right? But then I
Yes.
encourage like the moms, you write something about your daughter, daughters, you write something about your mom, and then have a dialogue about it. And then it became like, hey, it reveals something that they don't normally get to talk about. And I use
Okay.
that tool because I use that in my own family growing up, right? Every year
Yeah.
we have like a 360 review. So we pass this around. Everybody will get, what does Daddy say about me? What does each of my daughters say about me? And then our opportunity to say, so it becomes very transparent. Everybody give everybody feedback at the end of the year. Certain things that we learn from office can actually be applied now because the first team that we run is our family, right? And so
Yeah.
those that process, that tool, open up space for conversation. Like, oh, I never knew my husband took things that way. Or I never knew my daughter has.
Oh,
But more
awesome.
importantly is I would give the daughters to, so the first sheet of paper is what other people can do more of or less of. Another
Mm.
piece of, actually, what do I need to do? So after you hear the feedback already, right? Then we need to think about actually what do I want to do in the next year? How can I do better? These are what other people think about, how I've been doing. And so it's not just about telling other people what to do, but it's also a reminder that, okay, so I have heard everybody. What do I need to do? What do I need to do more of or less of? Start doing or stop doing. So having that regular for sharing what the dad did, it is so important. Right? It's so important to hear feedback
Yeah.
from other people. It can
Yeah.
sharpen our parenting toolkit. And we don't just run the way that we think is right because maybe our children may not think the outcome we have in mind may not actually be realized if we never actually ask them. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so
Oh,
good. Wow.
yeah. But even when the kids are very young, you can still ask them, what do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah.
Children are smarter than we think they are. Give them ask them like, what do you think? How do you think mommy did? When my daughter was in lower primary, I remember she gave me a sticker. P1, I remember. A pupil. On like a little star post-it.
Oh.
Then she see on I like it. It's like so sweet. She's learning how to
Yeah.
other people. And so that process is not just critiquing, but it can also be a place of encouragement. What can you do more of, right? Well, I can praise you more and things like that. So it's very fun. It's actually a very fun activity, but it takes courage because not everybody can take 360-degree. We might feel like very hurt or whatever, right? But overall, I has done this a few times with many groups of mothers and daughters for our retreat. It has opened up great conversation. Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
It's really
Well, segueing into focusing about your work with SG families and digital wellness, can you share some of your observations in this space and what are some important things that we need to be aware of in this digital world and how it's always evolving?
Yeah, so SG Families is a groundwork movement for parents by parents. The idea is for us as fellow families to come together and raise wholesome generations together. In this very complex world, there's so many distractions, but what are the core stuff that we need to look into? And so there are 3 R's that I often encourage. The first thing is relationship. Whatever that we do, whether is it talking about digital wellness, whether is it about mental health, whether it's about leading our families, it starts with building relationship with our children, with our spouse. We need to make sure that the family unit is tight and strong because when the communication channel is strong, the relationship is strong, then whatever disciplinary things, right, that we need to guide our children in, it will be founded on a strong relationship. Then our children know that even though I don't feel good about it when mommy tell me, but I know that mommy loves me, that mommy and daddy is not going to make life difficult for me, even though I don't feel good, even though mommy and daddy might scold me or put boundaries on me, but those boundaries are for my own good. And this can happen much more easily when there's a strong relationship. The other R is about reasoning with our children, that it's not just directive, that you cannot do this because mommy says so, because you live in my home. That's why you need to do this, but to articulate it in a way that also allows them to share their perspective. And in that conversation, we want to guide them towards something that they see for themselves to be healthy and is worth following the instruction. The third R, so it's relationship, reasoning with our children. The third R is the rhythm. Think about the rhythm of our day, right? What do we do? How do we start the day with our families? Do we start it in a peaceful way? Or even at the start of the morning is very stressful, right? And during mealtime, for example, do we protect our mealtime to making sure that we have quality conversation, we give eye contact to our children, and not just everybody use their devices it's very heartbreaking for me to see that during mealtime, nobody is talking, but everyone is on the phone. My children, because I inculcate this in my family from young, there was a season in my public service life when I was working and dealing with media, and I need to be very responsive to media queries. And then during mealtime, there was a season where I need to text during mealtime. Then my children would ask me, "Mommy, is that important?" Then I will like, ouch. No, you are more important. Okay, sorry. I just need to answer this and then I will, focus on it. And it reminded me that, actually the people in front of us is more important than whatever that we need to do. I know that there will be some emergencies that we need to deal with, but once that is done, I think just putting our devices aside and really focusing on each other at the table, asking about their day, finding out, really being curious about this growing person in front of us. Whether we are young or old, we are all growing, right? Even for us as mummies or daddies, we are still growing, right? Finding out about our day is so important. And then, of course, nighttime. What are the nighttime routines? Nighttime routines are important, to kind of like slow down the day. And as we slow down, often the children will find that it's a safe place for them to process what has happened in the day, for them to maybe ask questions. And for me, in my mothering journey, the nighttime moments are very tender moments that sometimes out of the blue, there could be something that come out, that we didn't get to talk about during mealtime or other parts of the day. And so there are pockets of the day. That's a rhythm that we can build in our family life that can strengthen the bond, strengthen the relationship. Think about what we can do daily. So daily, there are these moments, right? Mealtime, breakfast, lunch, dinner, especially dinner, right? Everybody can so, and nighttime. How about things that are weekly, right? In the week, do we allocate time to go outdoors together, go for an adventure together, appreciate the world together, activate our senses, right? When we are using our screen, we are only using our sense of sight, sense of hearing, but we don't really activate our sense of smell, right? When we go outdoors, enjoy the smell of nature, especially if you go outdoors. Just go out after the rain, you can smell the grass. And that can actually enrich your, especially for young children, we want to develop their five senses, right? So giving them exposure to various experiences is so important. So every week, what are some of the rhythms that we can build into our family so that there is balance? And maybe every month or every year, what are some of the rhythms? So for example, birthdays are great opportunities for us to appreciate each other, right? Call out each other's gifts and talents. Or every year do the 360-degree feedback that we talked about, right? So there are rhythms like this that we can build into our family life. The more intentional we are to harness this moment, especially as the children grow up, they will get more busy, right? We might get more busy also in our own job or managing our own parents. So many things that we need to juggle with. We then need to be intentional with our together time, so that as a team, we are tight to journey through the various complexities in life. Any emergency that comes, we can stay resilient because there is this tightness in the team. Yeah, so that's the 3 R's: relationship, reasoning with our children, and then think about the rhythm in your family life.
Wow, that was really a very power-packed 3 R's. Thank you for that takeaway. Really, really great one. So Carol, as we move towards closing out here, what is one thing you want your listeners to take away from your story?
Relationship is so important. Relationship with ourselves, right? Stay healthy. Make sure that we have me time every day so that we can clear our mind, we can process, so that we have the capacity to be able to build relationship with our children, with our spouse, even with our own parents or whoever that we need to work with. And those who have faith, our relationship with God is so important. So really spending time to develop relationship. Relationship takes time and effort. It doesn't just come like that. If we want to build relationship with a friend, we need to hang out with our friend. So same thing with our children, right? If we want to build a relationship, we need quality time. We need time to time with our spouse. So relationship to me is key. Yeah.
Anything from the digital wellness angle, like how can these translate into how we can build better habits in our family?
So again, relationship is the foundation layer. I think we also need to think about our relationship with our devices.
Yeah.
How much are we relying on our devices? I know that for work, we can't live without devices, but on the emotional aspects, for example, right? Do we go to our devices immediately when we feel stressed, when we feel, frustrated? Or actually, are there other coping strategies? Because sometimes when we only rely on devices, it may not be healthy. because there are other coping strategies. You can have go outdoors, talking to friends in person. I see that with younger people as well, as like instead of going out together, they just text each other or do Zoom calls together, study together, or just put a just what live thing together. I think there is a value having face-to-face meetings, gathering out, and you drink coffee, have meal, enjoy food together in person. What I'm saying is that young people, they enjoy food together, but they are still in front of the screen. Let's eat together and call everybody.
Yeah.
Is that possible? Yeah, it's possible, but it's different when it's in person. Many times the in-person interaction takes more out of us, right? It maybe it's more awkward, it takes more effort, but these are skills that we need. That's the reality. We are in a real world and not just online. We want to use devices to complement our real life, in-person life, okay, and not let it overtake us. We shouldn't be only living in the online world. The real bodies matter.
Well, if listeners want to connect with you, what are the top areas that you like talking about?
So back to the 3 things, digital wellness. If you have any questions about digital parenting or just how devices can help you in your life. Mental well-being is another area, not just well-being, but mental toughness, which means how can we still have high performance despite feeling stressed? Stress is a normal thing that everybody feel, and there are certain skills that we can learn to deal with that better. And then the third area is about leadership and communication. How can we lead our families better? The first team that we have as parents is our family, our children. So how can we be better lead? Happy to journey with anyone who is interested.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and insights, Carol. This was especially interesting and helpful for me, not just on the digital front, but realizing that it's so important to start now, thinking about situations beforehand and having family rhythms. Wishing you all the best.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Make It Work, where we uncover inspiring stories of modern working mamas in Asia who have redefined their careers whilst putting family first. Please help others discover the show by leaving a review and rating on wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube,
And TikTok.
Meanwhile, here's to you, making it work.